Hello, and welcome to the Michigan Department of Education's Public Acts 146 and 147 webinar. We're glad you're here. My name is Jen Saylor, and I'm an Assistant Director for the Office of Educational Supports here at the Michigan Department of Education. Co-presenting with me today are Mrs. Denisha Rawls-Smith, the MDE Literacy Unit Manager, Dr. Kim St. Martin, the MyMTSS TA Center Director, and Dr. Sean Kaki and Dr. Alam Bazi from the Office of Educator Excellence. Today's webinar will provide an overview of Public Acts 146 and 147 and is designed to provide summary information, requirements of the law, as well as provide foundational information to help define dyslexia and characteristics of dyslexia. As part of Goal 2 of Michigan's Top 10 Strategic Education Plan to improve early literacy for Michigan students, the Michigan Department of Education focuses on both the how and the why of literacy to realize our vision for all Michigan learners. Our collective how emphasizes learning to read through the research-based instructional practices necessary for students to develop technical literacy skills for academic, personal, and professional success. Our why cultivates students, families, communities, and educators' interests and a joy of reading through diverse and engaging text. Because we believe literacy is a fundamental right, Public Acts 146 and 147 of 2024 serve as a foundation for Michigan's efforts to ensure students become thriving readers who experience a sense of belonging that honors the richness of differences. When the how and the why are combined, high-quality, research-based instruction meets literature that serves as mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors to provide students unlimited opportunities to cultivate a lifelong love of reading. As mentioned in our introduction, today's webinar will provide an overview of Public Act 146, define dyslexia, as well as highlight dyslexia keywords and phrases and characteristics of dyslexia. Additionally, we will outline MDE and district requirements intended to support research-based literacy practices in support of students and educators, continue with an overview of Public Act 147, which supports Michigan's pre-service educators, and finally, we will share technical assistance offerings that support understanding more about K-12 literacy and dyslexia. To begin, I'll first provide a bit of background and historical context for this legislation. On October 10, 2024, Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed Public Acts 146 and 147 of 2024 into law, now referred to as the K-12 Literacy Dyslexia Laws. The intent of these laws is to ensure that students participate in reading instruction grounded in research, and that educators receive the professional development needed to implement instructional strategies aligned with the science of reading. Literacy instruction provided in this way is proven to increase literacy achievement, and to ensure that students have access to high-quality instructional materials and assessments, it should be noted that the law is not focused on diagnosing learners with dyslexia. And now, to share more about the components of PA 146, I'll turn the presentation over to Mrs. Denisha Rawls-Smith.
Thank you, Dr. Saylor. Since the passing of Public Act 146 of 2024, MDE has received questions about how the law impacts Read by Grade 3 law. Public Act 146 includes the Read by Grade 3 law. PA 146 has revised the 1280F statute. During this portion of the presentation, I will provide an overview of the components outlined in Public Act 146 of 2024. Specifically highlighting the components of changes that have been made to the 1280F statute, also known as the Read by Grade 3 law. Some of the 1280F changes include individual reading improvement plans, or IRIPs, span kindergarten through 3rd grade. Developing 4th grade IRIPs is not included in PA 146. However, MDE is examining the language for K through 12 to further clarify IRIP requirements beyond 3rd grade. PA 146 requires a level of IRIP information to be reported to ISDs. Student information is de-identified and then aggregated and sent to the Michigan Department of Education. Diagnostic assessments are no longer referenced. The term district identified coaches is infused into the language. And English learner screening requirements take into consideration English language proficiency. And I want to clarify this portion a little bit. Beginning in the 2027-2028 school year, a pupil who is an English language learner and who has been assessed at an entering level or beginning level of English language proficiency on a state-required language proficiency assessment or at a comparable level in accordance with department guidance is not required to be screened for characteristics of dyslexia and difficulties in learning to decode. However, a district will be required to screen for characteristics of dyslexia and difficulties in learning to decode if the school staff determine that the pupil appears to demonstrate characteristics of dyslexia that are not due to limited English proficiency. Public Act 146 also outlines requirements for K through third grade assessments. Districts must implement valid screening and progress monitoring assessment measures for the following: phonemic awareness, letter sound correspondence, single word reading, nonsense words, rapid automized naming, reading fluency, and comprehension. Schools have been screening students in K through third grade throughout the life of the Read by Grade 3 law. But one big change with Public Act 146 is that now they have to screen for specific skills using reliable and valid screening and progress monitoring assessments. I will talk more about the specifics regarding the assessment list, but please know that some of the current approval items or assessments that are on the current list may not meet these new requirements. One of the required measures mentioned on the previous slide is rapid automized naming. Those of you who have taken letters training may be familiar with this. Rapid automized naming is where students are asked to give a verbal name associated with a symbol or picture without conscious thought. The big takeaway from this slide is that although RAN is a skill that is being assessed, it is not a skill teachers should teach. And the reason why is because there's no evidence that these types of drills have any positive effect on increasing literacy achievement. Public Act 146 also offers guidance for students in grades 4 through 12 who demonstrate any of the following: escape or avoidance behaviors when asked to engage in reading or writing activities, effortful or laborious reading, reading comprehension difficulties caused by inaccurate or inefficient word reading, significant spelling or encoding difficulties not caused by fine or gross motor skills, or visual motor difficulties, low performance on approved English language arts standards, low performance on approved standardized literacy assessments, or if they've demonstrated reading deficiency. 4th through 12th grade students who demonstrate any of the indicators listed on the previous slide must be screened using a reliable and valid screening assessment from the Michigan Department of Education's approved list. The screening assessment data confirms the need for Tier 2 reading intervention and support. If screening assessment data confirm this need, students will need access to reading intervention and will be screened at least 3 times per year. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Kim St. Martin.
Thank you. So we want to spend time discussing the definition of dyslexia and dyslexia characteristics. It's important to say again that Public Act PA 146, 147 are not about diagnosing learners with dyslexia. Dyslexia is a continuum that ranges from mild characteristics to profound difficulties with reading and writing. Dyslexia can also be referred to as a word level reading disorder, and it's in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, DSM-5. The K-12 literacy dyslexia law, so PA 146, 147, defines dyslexia, which you can see here on this slide. Dyslexia is a specific learning disorder that is neurobiological in origin, meaning it's caused by differences in the brain's structure and its functioning, and it impacts how a person processes language, particularly when reading and spelling. When you see the bolded term, phonological component of language, so that term in this dyslexia definition, it refers to the system of sounds in our language and the rules that govern how sounds are combined together and are used to create meaning in what we read, used to create meaning in the words and the phrases and information that we hear and what we write. Dyslexia is characterized by difficulties with accurate or fluent word recognition and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. Fluent word recognition means there are challenges in reading text at a rate that is not too slow or may seem laborious. And these difficulties, they are unexpected, and they're unexpected because learners had reading instruction that aligns with scientifically based reading research. And this is a critical point because if they had the highest quality reading instruction that is aligned to research, we 100% would expect these learners to read easily. Certainly, maybe not 100%, but at least 95% confident that they would have been able to read easily. At the same time, there are also secondary consequences associated with dyslexia. And the secondary consequences are things like learners who have reduced reading experiences that impact vocabulary development, certainly impact their reading comprehension. So they could have reading comprehension difficulties. And these secondary consequences also include learners that may have social, emotional, and behavioral difficulties. Social, emotional, behavioral difficulties can include students who experience a low self-esteem, may have anxiety, or frankly avoid reading-related tasks inside or outside of school. Overall, in the dyslexia definition, there are some key words and phrases that we would like you to take away from the definition. One is that dyslexia is neurobiological. So there's a deficit in the phonological component of language. That's the second bullet you see here on the slide. And the phonological component of language is the systems of sounds in our language and the various rules that govern how those sounds are combined together and used to create meaning in what we read, what we hear, and what we write. The third bullet, dyslexia results in difficulties in being able to accurately read words and text, decode those words that our learners are reading in text, and difficulties with spelling. And finally, these difficulties are unexpected. And they're unexpected because of other cognitive abilities that our learners have. And they're unexpected because those students have been consistently provided with effective reading and writing instruction to prevent and be able to address these difficulties. PA 146, 147 uses the term dyslexia characteristics. Table 1 from the Michigan Department of Education Dyslexia Handbook outlines dyslexia characteristics that span through preschool upwards to 12th grade. Some of the kindergarten through 3rd grade, or the early elementary characteristics are bulleted here on this slide. So some of the examples of characteristics for our learners in kindergarten through third grade include uh, students who are confusing letters, whose sounds are similar, or they are repeatedly misspelling words even after letter sound correspondences or combinations have been taught. Even in the early grades, some social, emotional, behavioral difficulties can occur. We have learners in these grades who can start to avoid reading and reading related activities like participating in reading intervention or certainly participating in class-wide reading instructional activities. This next slide outlines the dyslexia characteristics encompassed for grades 4th through 12th grade. So again, table 1 of the Michigan Department of Education Dyslexia Handbook goes through the range of dyslexia characteristics in 4th through 12th grade. Examples of those characteristics include difficulties reading and spelling multisyllabic words. And this certainly leads to challenges in having our learners understand the text that they're reading across their classes. Their vocabulary is also limited, since we know that robust vocabulary that's added to our mental dictionaries, our mental lexicons, increases exponentially from a wide variety of reading experiences, as opposed to solely relying on the conversations that learners have with their peers, teachers, or the vocabulary that's learned from general life experiences. A multi-tiered system of support framework is embedded in Public Act 146, 147. MTSS is defined as a comprehensive framework that includes 3 distinct tiers of instructional support. Those tiers define features of class-wide instruction, tier 1, and intervention support to assist our learners in achieving their reading and writing or literacy outcomes. And this means that there are data, systems, procedures, processes, and evidence-based practices that are used in order to meet the individual needs and build upon the assets of the whole child at all achievement levels. MTSS was already written into Read by Grade 3. However, the K-12 Literacy Dyslexia Law, PA 146, 147, outlines language specific to preventing dyslexia characteristics. The language describes Tier 1, class-wide literacy instruction and intervention that encompasses Tiers 2 and 3, and the type of instructional methods that are used across the tiers to teach decoding and word recognition. And the rationale as to why decoding and word recognition are emphasized goes back to the dyslexia definition and the characteristics that we just finished talking about in the previous few slides. The primary consequences of dyslexia are accurately reading words, reading text, decoding letter sound combinations, to read the words in text and spelling. In Public Act 146, 147 requires a code emphasis instructional approach to be used to teach learners how to decode and recognize words. There's also additional language that you'll find in the tiers 2 and 3 sections of PA 146 that outlines ways in which instruction can be adapted, meaning that it's made to be more robust, more intensive, to accelerate literacy outcomes. The IRIP language returns in this section of PA 146 to note that intervention support is documented in IRIPs for students in grades K through 3. At the same time, there is additional language introduced in this section, and it's the term individual reading intervention plan. We, within Michigan Department of Education, are clarifying the language to avoid confusion and redundancies with IRIP features. Right now, we're going to unpack the definition that I mentioned on the previous slide, we're going to unpack a code emphasis instructional approach. A code emphasis instructional approach includes direct, explicit instruction. When I use the term direct, explicit instruction, this means that there's teacher modeling, guided practice with feedback, and supporting our learners to master and be able to independently demonstrate what is being taught. And that explicit direct instruction is in the code system of written English at the sound, syllable, and morpheme and word level. Our goal is to ensure that learners develop automaticity in reading the letter sound combinations and in recognizing the words as if they're reading those words by sight. So it's instant. The code system of written English, that phrase that you see in this definition, is something that many people ask us to explain further. In order to speak the English language, there are 44 sounds or phonemes that are represented by the 26 letters of the alphabet, either as individual letters or letter combinations. Phonics instruction, it involves teaching the relationships between the sounds and the letters used to represent those sounds. And in English, there are many spelling alternatives, hundreds. And I've even seen research indicating that that number could be over 1,000 different letter combinations to represent the 44 sounds in our language. Let's also define the word morphemes, because that is another word or term that we get asked questions about. We want our learners to understand the meaning of individual words and parts of words. So understanding individual words and parts of words, those are morphemes. So let me give you an example. For the word cats, that includes 2 morphemes. The first morpheme is cat. It stands on its own. When I say the word cat, you likely right now have an image of a cat in your mind. It has meaning. The second morpheme is the S at the end of the word cats. The S means more than one, the plural. It cannot stand on its own. Doesn't mean anything unless it's connected to the word cat. Chapter 5 in the Michigan Dyslexia Handbook, the MDE Dyslexia Handbook, expands on a code emphasis instructional approach, and it outlines the instructional elements of quality code emphasis phonics, phonics and word recognition lessons. So if you're a teacher or a leader who has access or is currently accessing the Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading, Spelling, or Letters, Professional Learning, you will notice the Unit 3 General Phonics Lesson Plan that you find in Letters. Those components are outlined in Chapter 5 of the Dyslexia Handbook. In addition to outlining instructional methods to help our learners successfully decode and recognize the words, the K-12 Literacy Dyslexia Law also outlines instructional methods that must not be used. They must not be used to minimize the importance of our learners using letter sound information in order to successfully decode and recognize words. Since there are so many ways to combine the letters of the alphabet to represent the 44 different speech sounds in our English language that ultimately represent the words and text that our learners read in core subjects like math, English language arts, science, and social studies. If we're using methods that are going to divert attention from our students being able to successfully recognize the letter sound combinations and be able to successfully read the words as if they're reading those words by sight, or to use the language that's in this section of PA 146, if we're going to divert their attention from learning to unlock the code of written English, it is 100% problematic. A through E that you see on this slide outlines the things that are in essence a workaround to being able to successfully read the words on this page. They actually create some poor reading habits. Finally, I do want to reiterate again that PA 146, 147 is not all about phonics. And I've been asked this several times. It is the case that the primary consequences of dyslexia, thinking way back to the definition, are difficulties in being able to accurately or fluently recognize words and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. The dyslexia characteristics that we referenced earlier, we gave a nod to some K3, 4 through 12 dyslexia characteristics. They point to these difficulties. However, we can't forget that there are secondary consequences as well. That's part 2 of the dyslexia definition. And some of those secondary consequences are our learners that struggle to understand what they read. So they have comprehension difficulties. They have a reduced vocabulary and have reduced reading experiences. We want to ensure that all of our learners have the necessary skills and processes to access a variety of texts across different genres and ultimately be able to achieve a lifelong love of reading.
To support the goal of improving reading outcomes for K-12 learners, Public Act 146 identifies specific requirements of the Michigan Department of Education to support educators and administrators implement the law over the next few years, as highlighted on this slide. According to the legislation, MDE will provide a coaching model that expands the current early literacy coaching structure to grades 4 through 12. Additionally, MDE will provide a list of approved valid and reliable screening and progress monitoring reading assessments and publish a list of evidence-based Tier 1 reading curricula and materials by January 1st, 2026. And finally, the department is required and is excited to offer expertise, guidance, and technical assistance for the selection and use of assessments, structured literacy, evidence-based instructional methods, and curriculum materials for understanding dyslexia. As the implementation of PA 146 is a collective shared responsibility to support students' love of reading with best instructional practices, districts also have requirements to fulfill as part of the law. Beginning in the 2027-2028 school year, districts will be required to select universal screener and progress monitoring assessments, provide assurances that coaches and educators receive professional development in dyslexia characteristics, structured literacy instructional strategies, and MTSS, implement research-based assessment and instructional practices, and implement English learner requirements. As we shared on the previous slide, the department is working toward an updated list of assessments to be published by January 1st, 2026. Which means, in the meantime, the posted lists will remain current until they are updated next year. And now to talk more about the components of PA 146, I welcome our colleagues from the Office of Educator Excellence, Dr. Sean Kotke and Dr. Alam Bazi.
Thank you. And hello. To further this collective and shared responsibility for supporting children's literacy achievement and supporting children with dyslexia that Jen just described, PA 147 works in concert with PA 146 to enumerate specific responsibilities of our educator preparation providers who will provide the training for new teachers to ensure that there's alignment between pre-service teacher education and in-service professional learning. By September 30, 2027, all educator preparation programs must offer instruction in 4 components of dyslexia, which align to the elements that Kim discussed in prior slides. They need to discuss the primary characteristics of dyslexia, secondary characteristics of dyslexia, instructional adjustments for supporting children with dyslexia or at risk for developing dyslexia, and methods for school-wide and classroom infrastructure, such as MTSS, to support our children. When we say all, we mean all content areas, all grade levels, and all pathways, including universities and colleges, as well as alternative route programs that are not offered by universities or colleges, and expedited programs. Whether it's undergraduate or graduate, every endorsement area in which an individual is certified must experience these 4 elements of dyslexia.
Thank you, Dr. Kotke. In addition to the requirements that Dr. Kotke referred to, the educator preparation programs that offer endorsements in reading instruction, language arts, special education, or school psychologist licensure must offer instruction in evidence-based instructional methods and features of evidence-based interventions that are grounded in the science of reading and principles of structured literacy that are designed for pupils with characteristics of dyslexia and pupils at risk for difficulties in learning to decode accurately and efficiently. Further, evidence-based instructional methods and features of evidence-based interventions that are grounded in the science of reading and principles of structured literacy designed to effectively meet the needs of most pupils. Again, these include all programs that are also part of early childhood education, lower elementary, upper elementary, as well as the language arts, reading as a major endorsement, and the reading specialists. And also mentioned the special education endorsements, all special education endorsements, as well as the school psychologist certification. If an educator program does not prepare in any of these areas, they may apply for a waiver, which must be reviewed every 2 years. The implementation plan is already underway. The educator providers that are across the state of Michigan are already working on their plans. And for June 30, 2025, they will provide plans for meeting PA 147 obligations. June 30th, 2026 is their deadline to provide programs of study and assessment information. Next up, Dr. Kim St. Martin from MDE will continue our learning today.
We are now going to discuss technical assistance for the K-12 literacy dyslexia laws. The Michigan Department of Education Literacy Unit and the MyMTSS, Michigan's MTSS Technical Assistance Center, are providing technical assistance like professional learning, implementation support to develop dyslexia expertise, to develop an understanding of structured literacy, which is in PA 146, 147, and the underlying factors that place learners at risk for reading. In addition to what I just said, we're going to provide technical assistance in other components that are also included in PA 146, 147. On this slide, you are seeing a sample of free professional learning offerings that are currently available for people to register. The 2025 Dyslexia Summit is happening at the end of January 31st. Those sessions from the Dyslexia Summit are going to be recorded and they're going to be made available on demand. At the same time, there are other opportunities for people to access that you see on this slide. The language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, letters registration can be done currently by independent teachers or for all the people who are eligible to access the state aid funds for letters learning within a district. We will share in a few slides the link to the MDE letters cohort. There are also sessions designed to help people understand and be able to implement what is written in PA 146. So specifically, there are sessions on intensifying literacy instruction. And the information within that professional learning session aligns with the Tier 2, Tier 3 components of PA 146. And there's also family partnership sessions. And these family partnership sessions are specifically designed for families. And they focus on things like sources of reading difficulties, reading assessments to inform children's needs, and to build upon their assets. And there's many others. There are also some PA 146, 147 technical assistance opportunities that are currently in development. A literacy dyslexia research collaborative is being designed, along with an explicit instruction facilitator network. And the explicit instruction facilitator network is going to have an elementary lens and a secondary lens as well. Finally, we're also developing a letters facilitator network for people who are Lexia certified letters facilitators. More information is going to be forthcoming on these various things. There are also two QR codes that we want to reference at the bottom of this slide. And those QR codes, the first one on the left is to the MDE Letters Training Grant. And that's what I mentioned or discussed on the previous slide. The second QR code that you see, it is going to take you to the MyMTSS Technical Assistance Center's professional learning webpage. That page includes the various professional learning offerings and will allow you to register for them. There are some additional resources that we want to share. So finally, as we close today, we want to share two things. We want to share this QR code is going to take you to both of the things that you see on the right-hand side of this slide. The first is the Michigan Department of Education Dyslexia Handbook. You heard me reference it on talking about the dyslexia characteristics, Table 1, that is in the MDE Dyslexia Handbook. And this QR code is also going to take you to the second resource. And that resource is the Intensifying Literacy Instruction Essential Practices document. And there are other resources as well that you will find on connected to this QR code as a part of Michigan Department of Education's literacy webpage.
On behalf of our state superintendent, Dr. Michael Rice, and all of us here at MDE, we want to thank you for attending this PA 146, 147 K-12 Literacy and Dyslexia webinar. The Michigan Department of Education has created the mailbox displayed on the screen to connect with you. Please send us an email if you have any questions about the information we have presented, or if you would like to discuss technical assistance. In the meantime, thank you again for joining us and for all you do on behalf of Michigan students.